Still sleeping, Nikki turned around in her bed. It was not over yet. But instead of awaking on her balcony again, Nikki found herself in the room of doors. She was more than relieved to see that she wasn't running around with a giant hand for her head anymore, so she headed straight for the next door. Nikki was sure that her dreams were not about to end yet, at least not before she had entered all of them, so she might as well go through as many of these damn doors as possible before she woke up again. This room was completely different from all the others. It was brightly illuminated and not dark at all. The light came from thousands of differently formed neon lights on the ground, and they made funny noises when Nikki walked over them. Some of them looked like flames, while others seemed to represent ghosts or something similar. The girl headed north, and much to her surprise, at the end of the path created by those neon lights, she saw a toilet cabin. The door, however, was locked, and Nikki decided not to bother whatever was in that cabin. After spending so much time in the absence of light during her dreams, Nikki felt kind of strange being able to see so much around her, and for some reason it made her feel even more afraid of what was behind the area she could see than stumbling around in the darkness. So she decided to go away from the lights for a bit, and into the darkness she has gotten used to. After a few meters, she saw a small building with a large steel door in front of it, and curious to see what was behind it, she opened it. If experience should have taught her anything, it was that entering doors was generally not a good idea around here. But in this case, she had only found an elevator. There were two buttons inside the cabin, one set up and one set down. Since pressing the up button didn't do anything else than closing the elevator door, Nikki decided to press down, and after the doors had opened again, she found herself in a room that looked like part of a subway station or a mall. To her left, there were two escalators, one leading up and the other one leading downwards. The escalator leading up, however, was broken, so Nikki decided that she had no chance but to go down, deeper under the earth. From somewhere, Nikki heard train noises, and normally she would have went on to explore where they were coming from, but just as she left the elevator, a faceless woman approached her, and Nikki got scared, running down another escalator which led to the basement of the station. Still in fear, Nikki tried to escape through an open manhole in front of her. Hastily, she climbed down the stairs and ran to the left, where she saw another ladder. Hoping that she had escaped the faceless lady already, Nikki climbed up and found herself in a dark forest. The full moon above her shed some light on the ground, and Nikki was able to find her way through the trees rather quickly. The ground beneath her feet was kind of wet. Maybe it had rained here just a few minutes ago, or maybe this forest was somewhere near swamp. On a little forest clearing, she suddenly spotted a frog in front of her, which she found cute, so she went ahead and tried to pet it. The little amphibian, however, didn't seem to like her, as it quickly jumped away, leaving another one of these cards on the wet soil in front of her. Frog was written on it, and Nikki wasted no time picking it up. She wanted to talk to the little guy, ask him where she was, and Nikki hadn't really been able to talk to many people here in her dreams. Not that she talked to many people in the real world either, as she spent most of her time alone on that light brown park bench feeding the birds. Sometimes, a visitor or another curious person would sit next to her and start a conversation, most of which she enjoyed, but most days it was just her and the birds. Nikki was so lost in thoughts that she hadn't noticed that she had already turned into a frog, thanks to the magic powers of the card she was holding. The frog girl started searching for the little guy she had just seen, and after a while she found him, hidden between the roots of a big tree. Hey, you don't need to be afraid, she told him, but the amphibian just crawled further under the cover of the strong roots. I don't mean you any harm. When the frog was fully out of her sight, he answered, Go away, hide yourself. It's coming. Confused, Nikki asked him what exactly was coming, but the frog didn't dare to answer. He just sat there in his hideout and was probably scared to death. Hurry, or it will get you, just as it has gotten my sisters and brothers. Again, Nikki asked him what it was, and this time the frog replied, A flower person. It will eat you. It only eats frogs. Although Nikki didn't want to believe him, she pulled out the frog card again and wished to return to human form, which she did after a few seconds. Just to be safe, she thought, and continued her walk through the woods. Then she saw it. The frog had been right. A tall figure, looking like a flower which hasn't blossomed yet, was standing in front of her. As it noticed her, the flower person started gnarling and suddenly shot out a few ranks which he wrapped around Nikki's body. He slowly pulled the panicking girl who tried to free herself towards him. Nikki had never seen such a beautiful flower in her whole life. A large blue cube floating around in the nothingness of space. Or was it space? Nikki didn't know, and she had no idea why the flower person had brought her here. And looking down from the platform, she gasped, realizing that there was no ground below this platform. To both of her sides, she saw a red, flat square on the ground, and instinctively knowing that these must be teleporters, she stepped on one of them. Of course, she had been right. The square teleported her onto another one of these floating blue platforms, and Nikki started to realize what was going on. After some more teleports, Nikki reached a platform with a weird, blinking robot on it. She went towards it, but the robot didn't respond. It just lifted up its feet, up and down, dancing to a non-existent song. Realizing that she had reached a dead end, Nikki attempted to go back to where she had begun, but all the teleporters and the different platforms kept confusing her, and she ended up in somewhere completely different. Then, finally, she appeared on a completely new platform. In front of her, she saw a blue teleporter, and with haste, she stepped onto it. The teleporter had sent her to a familiar place. Nikki had seen this place already. It was the same light brown soil that the hooded metal creatures lived on. The young girl was reminded of the painful fate these creatures had to suffer, and was overwhelmed once again by a terrible feeling of impenetrable sadness. Turning around, Nikki faced 10 huge brown cubes, arranged as a big axe. The middle cube had an opening, and to Nikki it seemed like a shimmer of hope, something which could help her surpass this pressing feeling of sadness and helplessness she always felt in this region of her mind. Static. But this time there was more. A stairway leading upwards, out, away from her dreams. Escaping.